Is it showtime? It's showtime. All right, we are live. Now, where is my intro? Here it is. First one of the year, bit under 8 ball. Okay, welcome back to the All Things Aged Care Weekly Wrap-Up. My name is Anthony Ewan, aged care recruitment expert and host of the Pioneers in Aged Care podcast. If you're looking for a clinical, management or executive position in aged care, or if you want to be on the podcast, just let me know. Next, we have Robert Covino, founder and CEO of Mirus Australia. He led the creation of technologies like Mirus Metrics and Care Minute Manager, and now Mirus Plus, an AI-powered platform uniting software and data to streamline everything from admissions to compliance. Rounding out our hosting crew is Owen Matheson, strategic connector and founder of Mission Critical Group, who works with owners, boards, and executives with a knack for connecting the right people, opportunity, and capital to unlock growth and drive innovation. And our very special guest for today is a highly respected leader with over 25 years of experience in the sector. He has been awarded an Order of Australia Medal and named Aged Care's most influential business leader after a distinguished 20-year career as a senior officer in the Navy. He transitioned his expertise in strategic reform to the front lines of regional healthcare. As the co-founder and CEO of ApolloCare, he pioneered an industry-first technology-driven alliance that now supports how many aged care homes now, Stephen? Because it keeps increasing.
Currently 14.
14 not-for-profit communities across Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise the roof for Stephen Becsi. Welcome, Stephen.
Technology. Thanks, Anthony.
No, look, Happy New Year. We can still say Happy New Year until Australia Day. I think that's the unwritten rule.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's business as usual.
I'm all right.
It's still a funny period between now and then. But what's the latest, Stephen? Yeah. Tell us what's happened since
happening in the world of ApolloCare.
Well, obviously we've just come out of the Christmas New Year break, so things are beginning to heat up again. I think I had over 100 emails yesterday, so I think everyone's coming back to work. The highest of levels, I think everyone is in a watch and wait. Just now, we've just come into obviously the new act, and people are beginning to find their feet, and things will begin to hot up again fairly soon. You know, we have organisations trying to understand the new rules. We have the Commission walking and working with us as we all navigate the new process, and as the Commissioner has said, we're at the beginning of a journey right now, and it's a matter of all of us learning and maturing on this particular path with obviously a new focus and, more of a focus on our rights.
Absolutely. So right back down the salt mine, it sounds like, Stephen. 100 emails in the inbox just to come back fresh off of a couple of weeks off. On a personal note, did you get away with the family anywhere, or did you just have a little bit of a staycation and a little bit of shut-eye during the day, which is definitely not overrated?
Yeah, we were sort of having a little bit of a joke about this just before. For me, a very quiet time at home, didn't do much at all. If I was 3 decades younger, that would not be a good Christmas break. But for me, doing much of nothing and just relaxing, and a little bit of fishing on the beach is all I did, and that hit the spot.
Well, you don't want to have a holiday to recover from a holiday, Stephen. So maybe well played. But the fishing, tell us about that. Are you a keen fisher?
Look, I do a lot of fishing. Did a lot of fishing recently. I haven't had much time to do much at all. But look, I'm very fortunate. I live about 100 metres from a beach in Western Australia, down in Warnbros, just south of Perth. So took the rod, tried a different bait. I don't know if anyone does fish or not, but for the very first time I used chicken giblets. I don't know if anyone knows what a giblet is, but I used some chicken giblets, and I've got to say the results were amazing within the first half an hour off the beach. Flathead, bream, herring, you name it, 5 different varieties of fish. I couldn't catch them fast enough. They were all just coming in. So, yeah, it was something nice to do.
Amazing. So would you usually catch less than that, or is that a really good spot that you just happen to be
No,
at?
less. This is a very popular beach that during the day you have hundreds of people swimming. It's very safe, very sandy, and to the first cast, catch a big flathead off a popular swimming beach full of sand. I just freakish, and then silver bream and herring, as I said, just one of those wonderful evenings where there was a lot to catch and the bait wasn't coming off the hook, so it was really
I
easy.
love that when that doesn't happen. So you
keep that secret.
That's the fishing
chicken giblets. That's
away. Yeah,
We got a George Magellis is saying hello.
Yes.
You know George, Stephen?
Yes. No, George.
Yeah. Well, he's hopefully he jumps in later. And
He
I just
might
want to
join us.
apologize. Want to apologize up front. I'm going to be wiping the sweat off me like every 2 seconds because some of you may know I've moved to sunny Queensland and it's humid as anything. And I've set up office in a room that has no air conditioning and no fans or anything. So I've got to set that up. But I am dripping.
Yep, the dry heat is over from WA. Yeah, we have to climatize for after.
I think Rob might have caught a bit of sun as well in sunny Queensland.
We're coming from the Sunshine Coast, the beautiful Mooloolaba, which only took me about 2 years to pronounce that. But it's a gorgeous part of the world. And yes, tried a little bit of fishing, but without your luck, Stephen, more just bottom dwellers and soda cans. So, yep, it's, keep those spots.
Keep the dream alive, Rob.
Hey, so Stephen, some may know, but we're reaching a new audience all the time. Apollo Care, that's not you're not a traditional residential aged care provider. You do things differently. Like,
yes.
Give us a high level overview of Apollo Care.
The highest level. Apollo Care is a hybrid organisation. There is a part of the organisation that is a private company, and it provides capital, and it can provide capital, and obviously cheap capital. But the alliance of not-for-profits, it exists inside an alliance of not-for-profits. So what we've done is we've basically created a situation that took about 6 years to develop, working with the government, the ATO, ASIC, the Charities Commission, where you could basically bring together an alliance of small, and in this case, the majority regional-based not-for-profits, and they form the alliance and effectively outsource what was the approved provider function and roles, but now the registered provider functions and roles to Apollo Care Proprietary Limited that provides capital and that also provides the overarching cloud-based systems that go into the individual not-for-profits. So each of the communities that have joined the alliance keep their not-for-profit status as an operating company. All the staff remain inside the not-for-profits, but what the not-for-profits do is come under this wider umbrella of policies and the ability to get access to capital for the purposes of upgrades to buildings, obviously the injection of cloud-based systems into their individual little communities that in their own right as an individual organisation, they would not have the wherewithal, the capital or the access to that level of knowledge, experience, and systems. So that's what
it's a great.
Yeah. Well, how would a not-for-profit generally? Because now that the for-profits can raise capital, and you found a little, I guess I'm not going to say cheat code. What's a better word for cheat code? But because you're doing it all legally, of course. But how would a typical, regional not-for-profit aged care provider raise capital in the way you?
Okay. Not for profit land versus for profit land. Not for profits, obviously, they don't have shareholders; they're just members, and all the surpluses remain inside the organisation. They're not distributed to shareholders. But not-for-profits don't have the ability to raise capital like a private company. So what happens is, if you want to expand, or if you want to do greenfield or invest, if you don't have all the cash sitting in your bank account and you're not making profits, you need to borrow from a bank. So that's how you get access to funds, being a not-for-profit in this country. So there is money going out of the system. It's going to banks at whatever the interest rates are. Private operators have the ability to raise capital, so therefore they don't need to borrow from a bank, but you may have to pay a dividend back to a shareholder. Ta-da! Call the shareholder a bank. They're actually the same thing. They might have different interpretations out there in, business land about, not-for-profits versus for-profits, positives and benefits of both. But at the end of the day, money is not free. You either borrow it and you pay interest, or you raise capital and you pay a dividend to a shareholder. So that's the difference between the two. So in this particular scenario, you have struggling, and I will say, and let me talk about very quickly the history. We've had 3 phases of organisations that have joined our alliance. The first bunch of facilities were facilities that were in sanction. If you're in sanction, you are generally in trouble, because you've got to pour more funds and resources into fixing yourself up. And you may have got into that problem because you didn't have the funds in the first place. So you have to either shut down, or you go to another organisation and be taken over. If that happens, what happens is your constitution goes, all your objects go, your legacy goes, and you adopt the new board and the constitution of that new organisation that took you over. So that was the first phase of facilities. We then had a second phase of facilities that joined us, which were not in sanction, but were in financial distress. They joined the organisation. And then we've had this third round of organisations join, which were organisations that have been operating well, not in sanction, they're doing okay, but with all the new governance requirements associated with the new act, having, stronger boards, having, not just owners, on the boards, etc., and all the compliance. They're saying this is getting too hard for us in this little town. We don't have the bandwidth to get the right people and get all these systems. So although Healthy saw that there is a change with the restructure in the sector that's happening right now, and decided it was time to look at whether or not you got out of the business, whether or not you were acquired, or whether or not you went down this particular path, which is keep your constitution, keep your objects, join the alliance, have the ability to get access to capital, and also have, in our particular case, a cloud-based system, which means you're able to pipe in all the wherewithal basically in the cloud. So as long as you're set up the infrastructure to move lots of data, you have access to all of the wherewithal, as just like a provider effectively in Metro. So they're the sort of 3 options. So, for us, if I go back, really back into history, what brought about the genesis of Apollo Care? Yes. When I was the CEO of an organisation called Bethany in Perth, a very big not-for-profit. Facilities that joined the organisation for whatever reason. We had one join, a local government a facility, basically a facility that was owned by the council, join our organisation. And the day I walked in to meet the residents when we had acquired it, an old fellow resident turned around and said to me, "Well, Stephen, I suppose that means that I can't drink beer anymore." And I went, "Well, I've never..."
Oh, controversy.
Yeah, I've never had that. And I said, "Could you please explain why you just said that so I can understand?" And he said, "Well, we're in this lovely this is my home." And of course, aged care facility, nursing home. There's care provided to people in their home. I do like the name nursing home. You've come into my home, you've taken it over, and your organisation, in this case, this is what he said, so I can say, church-based organisations, you don't believe in alcohol, and I like to have a beer, so I can't drink anymore in my home. And I said, "Well, how about if I've got permission, I take you to the pub if I can on a Friday afternoon. I'll show you a beer. We'll both have a beer and we'll talk about whether or not you can have beer." What was the message? The message was, my home has been taken over by an organisation that maybe doesn't have the values that I believe in. And therefore the legacy of this current home is going to change because a new organisation has taken it over. That sent volumes to me. It was so loud. Hey, we've got to be able to preserve the legacy of the home. Now, I don't care what anyone says, and it's my view, so I can be shot down, really can be. If you're a big organisation and you take over a smaller organisation, that smaller organisation basically adopts the larger organisation's constitution, because that's the rule book of the company. You have a constitution with objects and what you're meant to do. That's your purpose. If the old constitution is gone because the company's been acquired, you adopt the new one. So the thinking for those 6 years was, how do you preserve and honestly keep the legacy of facilities in the bush that do have their unique fingerprint? They really do. How do you preserve that? The only way you can preserve that is not say, "Oh, we'll adopt the new constitution, but we'll keep everything going the way it was." No, you keep the original constitution with the objects. And the only way you can do that is to basically have an alliance with lots and lots of constitutions. In other words, lots of operating companies, but all managed under the umbrella of a set of rules that abide by what the Act is. And that's what a registered provider does. So what effectively all the little companies do is now outsource the registered provider component of work to a company. So you're keeping the very essence of this huge not-for-profit, almost call it a co-op type thing, where you've got owners still operating under the guidance of someone that deals with the government. That's how it works. It's complicated. It takes a long time to actually, and we've been working on this for 5 years and finessing it, but you do keep the very essence. But every single organisation then has access to far more resources in order for each individual company to do what it needs to do, whatever that purpose is.
There's efficiency gains, right, Stephen? And you've always been an efficiency-focused CEO. Even I think going back to your Navy days as well. I was telling the guys earlier about one of the projects you had on with the psychologist, which I found this like quite fascinating, and the behavioral study on how we change behaviors and operations, and what you're driving. And my background was shared services when I was in the Big Four, so before getting into that aged care side of it, but we don't look at this through the lens as much through the behavioral adoption as we do as much about setting up an offshore center or centralizing a managed service function to provide the ability for the businesses to scale. But the human effect is what I loved about what you did in the Navy about changing the awareness of cost consciousness, or a value center of what the cohorts of the organization effectively rate each other as well as you rate yourself. But behind it, it's really about driving some of the changes through that awareness or cognitive dissonance that we experience. And you then invoke a fight or flight. If you're not going to conform and move with the efficiency or the value or behavior that the organization is trying to adopt, it becomes very clear about how the organization, your peer group, are evaluating your behavior versus your self-awareness of that. I want to, maybe just share that. That story to me is one that I still reflect on about a lot of the business processes and also the behaviors you receive from staff, from people. Because at the end of the day, that's who we are at the core of these businesses until
Rob,
AGI.
You listen extremely well. There was a lot in what you just said there. First of all, it is about scale. It's interesting if you look at Stuart Brown's benchmarking. If you look at the overheads, the overhead per bed per day. If you're a really small organisation but you are viable and sustainable, you actually can control those costs. Then there's this chunk of between about 7 and 14 facilities, and we're just in that, or 15 facilities, where the overheads per resident per day are high. And then there are some reasons why that is. But then after 15 facilities and you begin to scale, it's like Woolies and Coles, the cost per resident per day drops dramatically over that size, because you do get significant economies of scale. So scale is really important, and that's something that we're just in this phase where we're just now at the top end of where it's quite expensive. But scale is important, but it is about efficiency, and it's about making everything work. If you can make it all work, you get an organisation or a facility that is in balance, and then you can extract the most benefit for every dollar that the taxpayer spends. And we're talking aged care, so I'll say it that way.
Yep.
I'm a balanced scorecard, a 101 person. So it's all about the real picture. So for me, it's all, what are the things that you've got to look at if you're sitting back in your ivory tower looking down on everything? You've got to look at your customer and what your customer wants. That's one bit of the 4. You've got to look at all your systems and processes. You tell me a company that does not have systems and processes in the world, and if you can show me a company, I'll then be convinced that you don't need systems and processes. The third part of an organisation is your staff. If you are an organisation, you have staff, and therefore your staff, your culture has got to be spot on, because if you get that right, a lot of your problems go away. And then, of course, the fourth one is finances. If you don't make a surplus, you're out of business. So you must get all 4 in balance. Now, if we look at all 4, I basically understanding that view of the world, and that's the way I perceive organisations, those 4 things. I basically have one behaviour that represents each one of those things, and I can then capture through data, through SaaS systems, because that's technology today. If you get the right information, you can capture data in each one of them. So for my first one on customers, we have put our residents or customers first. So if you're just residential aged care, it's residents. If you're, you're supported home or
Yep.
it's customers. So or clients. So you put your residents first, and we've got to then be able to capture how you do that. And you can capture that through, the surveys that we get from the Commonwealth when they come back and give us, what are our 13 residents at this one site said in the last. So you can get information for that, or you can get your own surveys or whatever. In relation to systems and processes, we certainly have a lot of data on that. The Commission provides us with a lot of data besides our own internal data on how well your systems and processes are working. In relation to, and for us, that's quality and safety in everything we do. That's the behaviour associated with that second view. The third view, your staff. We have a behaviour called work together, achieve together. We capture whether or not our staff are working together to achieve together through some SaaS software that captures our leadership and our staff's ability to work right. And then we have this for financials. Boy, there's an encyclopedia load of different financials, be it agency, be it direct cost, direct care revenues, be it occupancy. It doesn't matter. We've got about 7 of those things that we capture. So if you get all of these right, you're in sync and you are maximizing everything. I would say, and everyone could then say, well, is one more important than the other? For me, and most people will say that, your customer is, the absolute focus. So you've got everything right to make certain that you're looking after your customer. Richard Branson always says, and he has said, it's all about staff. It's all about culture. Give me a brand new plane and but have bad flight attendants on it. You walk on as a passenger, it might be a great plane, but if you're treated with disrespect, you're not going to fly again. If you have a used plane but well maintained, but you go onto that plane as a passenger and you are treated with respect. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Here's your seat. Is there anything I can get you? Blah, blah. You will fly again. So that's the staff. So for me, get that right. Put the effort into making certain your staff can do everything right, and you're on a good path. So I use a statement that says, have the best staff in the world and poor systems and processes. You don't want that. But if that's the case, the staff will still work hard if you've got a fantastic culture, and they'll do their work around. So you will get there, but it just won't be as efficient or as effective. But if you have the best systems and processes in the world, but you have a poor culture, no matter how good your systems and processes are, staff won't use it. It will fail.
Take us into that journey, Stephen. So 5 years ago, when you were sort of pioneering this model, it's obviously quite mature now, and you've kind of worked a few things out. But what were the critical barriers to getting, to be able to move the program along? Obviously, you started with people, but what did you learn along the way about people and culture and systems, and how quickly they can break, and how you build in either resilience or just a bit more of the journey of the case study of before and after for those out there that know, are on the operating journey.
Apollo.
From the insights.
Okay, I'll do a few home truths here, and it doesn't matter that I do, because it is the truth. When the idea was formed about Apollo Care, how did that happen? I had a discussion with the person who's now the chairman of Apollo Care. Name is John Young. John Young's a Harvard graduate, a capital man, a genius, a very smart thinker. And he helped create Patrick's Corporation. So we had basically this big structural reform happen on the wharves in Australia a few decades ago. John Young was the architect of it, and he's a brilliant man. He's a deregulation expert. So in 2000,
we'd love to have John on the show. That's Chris Corrigan, obviously, and
yes,
a major reformer.
John Young is the man behind Chris Corrigan. Okay?
Right.
I met him in 2013, and we had a bit of a discussion one evening, and he asked about what I was doing, where I've been, and blah 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 blah, and I did the fatal error of not researching who I was speaking with. So I didn't know this background that John was involved with, being an expert in deregulation, the capital markets and all the rest of it. And I made a statement to him, and the statement went something like, aged care is hard work, and something's going to have to change, because back then we'd just gone through Living Longer, Living Better, and the Productivity Commission report.
Right.
And what they were saying was that in the future, the government will not be able to afford aged care because of the boomers that we're going to go through in a decade's time. So there's going to need to be structural reform. So we're going to have to look at what we do with supply and pricing, etc. So there's going to have to be some form of deregulation of a very structured, regulated sector. Didn't hear from him for about a year. He went away and came back and then said, you know what, Stephen, you're absolutely right. In order to afford aged care in the future, with the lowering number of taxpayers and the increasing demand and burden of an aging population, there's going to have to be some form of deregulation. So, you go back to the 50s, you had milk bars everywhere. You didn't have your Coles and Woolies. And what you've now got is this big structural reform that happened to allow where we are today in aged care. What have we seen? We've seen last year supply deregulate. The government now doesn't allocate beds. You can build wherever you want. That's a freeing up of the market. We're seeing partial price deregulation, not in terms of care. The government has given a commitment, and we currently have ANAC, where the government commits, the taxpayer basically pays for the care of all residents in aged care. But like you do through the whole of your life, you pay a mortgage or you pay rent, you go to Coles and Woolies and you buy your washing powder, you wash your own clothes, you feed yourself, you pay for that. We're seeing that now happen in aged care, which is the right way. So you're getting structural reform happening because it needs to happen. So with that in mind, John then came back and said, Stephen, if I was able to come up with a new structure that would basically take the very best of a sector that would go into some form of deregulation, would you like to basically, be inside this organisation, as we can take the best of what the private sector does and take the very best of what the not-for-profit sector does and combine it into a hybrid in something completely different. And oh, by the way, have no head office, be totally virtual. And I went, wow.
And this was pre-COVID too, pre-COVID thinking.
Pre-COVID. It then took us 6 years. When we started in 2013. In 2017, we got our approved provider registration. Without any facilities at that stage, but understand who we brought in. I'd been watching Barry Ashcroft when I was in Bethany, and of course Barry was effectively the first CEO Domain, which is now Opal. And I watched,
that's right.
And I watched how they went from 0 to 20 facilities very quickly. And how on earth did he manage that when organisations have been around for 60 years and not that size? And he had very much a distributed management model. So I asked Barry, would Barry like to help John and myself? And of course he said yes. So we had this great legacy and knowledge of what to do. So it all came together. And this goes, Rob, then back to your question about what are the things you learned?
Yes.
John asked a question of Barry and myself, and we were both aligned. The question was, if you acquired a facility that was not well, was sick, how long would it take to turn around? Because he builds models, and you've obviously got trade up, and you've got costs and all this sort of stuff. And we both on our experience in aged care, between the two of us, it was 45, 50 years, we both said 6 months.
Right.
Now, 14
how hard can it be?
years on, and this new environment and the regulation in place and how you can tweak, and you can't do wholesale rapid change straight away. You've got to affect things in unison with each other. Anyone that can turn around a facility that is not well into a mature facility, with first or second quartile EBIT results and full accreditation, no less than 18 months.
That's
no less.
Yeah.
18 months to 24 months. So Barry and I got it wrong. Now, the reason we got it wrong is the world has moved on. There is more regulation in place, even though we're going into a deregulated market. As I said, supply. We're not controlled now where you can build anywhere you want, where the market demands it. And, as I said, pricing is freeing up, which is a good thing. But there are still significant controls around the quality of care. We all know that, so I don't even need to talk about it. We have a new act. We have all the new standards and all what's below that. It takes a very long time to change from a not well-running facility to a second or first quartile facility. It takes a long time.
What surprised you the most in that elongation of time? 6 months is very ambitious, whereas 18 to 24 months is more realistic. What were you surprised by that took so much longer? If you were
humans are complex.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. This is like a masterclass in turnaround, how you take a sick organisation and, realise its potential.
Yeah, okay. Look, everyone here, you would all know what a PMO is.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. A lot of people don't know what a PMO is. A project management office. Anthony, a PMO, if you're in a mature sector that runs big projects of mining, engineering, anything like that, defence, you have a thing called a PMO, a project management office. You have experts managing the hundreds of different activities that are going on simultaneously as you're beginning to change something or build something new. It's called a PMO.
Stephen, it originated in the military, didn't it? The PMO.
Correct. Yeah, PMO originated in the military, and now there's you get qualified effectively in running these things. It's a real thing, like being a nurse. You've got to do certain things to be a nurse or a doctor. To run a project properly, you should have a PMO. We have a PMO. We run a PMO, and we run a PMO on our acquisitions. So I could tell you, with every acquisition, it doesn't take too long. When you're in due diligence, you start populating the software inside your PMO, and you start capturing and getting the intel on the things that are doing well and the things that are not doing well. It goes without saying, we could have an acquisition, and within the period of 3 or 4 months, you could have more than 400 activities being tracked in the PMO. So it's a complicated process of tweaking all those individual, and every acquisition is different, and therefore your focus will be on your area of sickness And for some, it could be the building. For others, it could be compliance, in relation to clinical. It could be financial. Depending upon what it is where you begin to throw the resources and assets. But I will say in regional, because we've got 13 or 14 facilities in regional. The one facility that we have in Metro, in Sydney, I've never had agency, ever. Wow. Why? There's 6 or 7 million people in Sydney. So you know what? You can find people. The moment you go to the bush, and I've now got facilities in towns I'd never heard of Yakandanda.
I've been to that one, Stephen. I know where that goes.
On the border between New South Wales and Victoria, I've never heard of Morani, a place west of Mackay. All these, I'd never heard of Harden, an hour and a bit
New
north
South Wales.
Canberra.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd never heard of these places. Okay, I'd never heard of them. It means most people have never heard of them. So when you want to get people to fill that facility up and move them from Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth to, the town called Neverkickamookow.
Yeah, so now you're just making them up, Stephen.
That's at the back of Burke, by the way, Neverkickamookow. Yeah, staff are a real issue in regional Australia. Then you multiply with that something that we've got that we didn't have 10 years ago when Barry and I said it only takes 6 months. You've got a thing called care minutes. If you can't physically get people in to a town to live, and yet you have got a requirement for care minutes that says you need these amount of RNs and these amount of ENs. But ENs can top our RNs because there aren't enough RNs, and you need care workers. But people don't want to live in Neverkickamookow because their families have in Sydney. What do? You've got 3 alternatives. If you are not going to get, or if you are under in your staff, and one of the acquisitions we did, though we didn't call them acquisitions, they just joined the alliance because they keep their constitution. They keep the board. Everything just remains the same except now for an injection of funds and some new rules.
And that's a game changer. That really is. I mean, the amount of organisations that change so much post-acquisition because of the parent company's culture, systems, people, way of doing things. I mean, you preserving legacy. This is a great story for many industries to look at.
Well, it is a good story because I will guarantee, and I do guarantee to the vendor, that we do preserve legacy. Why? Because you keep your constitution, and you still, a few of you will still remain on the board. You are the guardians of the objects in the constitution. It's not written off, it's not gone, it remains. No other organisation can give a guarantee on legacy not changing. Legacy remains in place because constitution remains in, and you can't break that. No other organisation can do that yet. It'll happen in time. But going back to it, if you have, and one of our organisations that joined the alliance when we came in had 63% agency. It had less staff than agency. So real problems. And of course, we know ANAC does not cover the on-cost of agency. It only covers the cost of staff. So you are in trouble financially. Besides the fact that if you have agency, those agency people, good people, but they don't know residents like staff do, because staff are there every day. Agency blow in and blow out. So to get staff is a fundamental. So you've got 3 choices. You go out of business if you can't get the staff. Why? Because you're going to fail in care minutes. This new thing says unless you have the people, you are going to be sanctioned and you're in trouble. So you get out of business, or you do what the majority of regional providers are doing right now, is you bring people either from the big cities in.
Yes.
Not a lot of them, unfortunately. So you bring people from overseas. That becomes the solution. The problem with that is it's an expensive solution. Why? You bring them in and you've got to pay for them to come here. But you're morally obligated to then go and buy a home or a hotel or a block of apartments or something to house the people in while they work in your facility. So you become a real estate company as well. But that's a solution. You bring people in from overseas, and that's what the majority of people are doing. The third one, which I would like to see in the future, and I know it's being dabbled with right now, and I'm a firm believer in this. Technology is really important. We are in a sector where there aren't enough workers, full stop. However, if we know that in primary care, there is a thing called telehealth. I use it. I don't drive to see my doctor in Fremantle from down in Rockingham. I get onto telehealth and I organise the meeting and I get whatever assistance I need. I know with the software that's in place and with the things that you can have a care worker or an EN, walking around with their trolleys in a home, that an RN sitting at home in Sydney could absolutely provide the services to the resident in Never through telehealth. So in time, if ever there was a big change to happen, let's get telehealth into aged care facilities where it counts towards care minutes. Because if you did that, the supply of people that would like to be able to work at night while the kids are asleep and provide services for the benefits of elderly Australians, but still be at home. So we need something. If that happened, by goodness, would this sector, by embracing technology, by changing some of the rules, I think you're going to find the ability to accelerate sick facilities and bring them around and get more facilities operating really well would be enabled. But that's my view. I'm certain there are people.
I think we need
So while we're still on the topic of workforce issues being a main issue, I did promise some people I'd give them a shout out because believe it or not, I am not just the aged care podcast guy. I made a post recently thanking a few clients for entrusting me with a few roles. And I put this post up and I said, hey, if you share this and comment on it, etc., then I'll give you a shout out. So 9 people, I do need to give a shout out right now. So I want to give a shout out to Alexandra Savasilis Fall. Pretty sure I pronounced that right. Shout out to Kelvin Neve, the CEO of Doherty Apartments. Recently won the Leader of the Year award.
Oh, yes. Raise the roof.
Yeah, Julie, raising the roof. Julie Hogarth Williams. Going with Stephen Ashworth.
Dimitri Seniors
Stepanov.
Channel N. Yep.
Yes, IT Integrity at Stephen Ashworth. Got Dimitri Stepanov. Libby Hema Lewis.
We love Libby.
Libby.
Kim Davis, a big fan of hers.
Yes,
as well.
we love Kim, and Kim's already commented today.
Yeah, Kate Wago or Wago. I've asked her how to pronounce that before, and I've already forgotten. I'm sorry, Kate. And Kylie White. So thank you so much, guys, for reposting that. So I do recruitment as well, not just podcasts, but the podcast certainly helps. And I've also got a question that I promised I would ask. Both Stephen and Rob, if you could weigh in on this. So I've got a question from Hassan Shoaib. And his question is, I'll put it up there. Providers are expected to develop their own policies, procedures, and staff training based on the national principles of child safe organizations and child safe framework. Does anyone have experience, information, or ideas on this? And my question is, what's this got to do with aged care? What is this child safe thing?
Nothing
Who wants
like
to
a
take that,
curly
Stephen, or Rob?
curveball, Stephen. How do you feel about it?
Look, that one is a bit of a look. I'll step back. 2 days ago, Anthony, I read. We've got a chat group there, and this particular question came up in a chat group in WhatsApp that you're running, where they were asking this particular issue. So obviously,
the reablement group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it came up last week, I think, and there were questions in relation to children. That particular question. So I don't know what the genesis of why now everyone is asking that. I don't know, but people are beginning to ask that. The second thing is I'll go back then to yesterday. Yesterday I did an interview in a place called Rivervale, so just south of Perth. Anthony, it went for about an hour, and there was a question was put forward around, we've got the changing name of the department. It was basically it was aged care, and then it was health and aged care, and now it's health, aged care, and disability. So is there this grand plan that eventually health and aged care and disabilities and childcare and NDIS all coming together under a super or not? My response to that was, and this is you can only speak from your own reference. You can only speak from your view of the world. When I was in my previous organisation, we had a hospital, a private hospital in Perth called Bethesda, and we had a bunch of nursing homes, and we had home care and all. And what I learned running that organisation was that the way you run a hospital is not the same way as you run residential aged care. In a hospital, if you own the hospital, you are a landlord because the consultants and specialists run the business, and your ability to receive a rent is based on whether or not you get throughput in your operating theatres.
That's your utilisation.
That's what I learned when we had Bethesda. That language is not the language you use in a residential aged care facility at all. So,
it'd be pretty controversial, Stephen. If you had throughput in an aged care, that would mean.
Gee, well, you wouldn't want to own funeral homes then either, would you? Conflicts everywhere. Look, childcare. If I separate a little bit, childcare is different to residential aged care, and I can say that because in our group we also have a childcare facility. We also have medical centre, and we have all these things. Because if you're basically forming an alliance of not-for-profits, if the towns generally just don't have an aged care facility, they'll have a retirement village, they'll have home care, they'll have a medical centre, they'll have a childcare, and generally the town might own the lot. So you basically get the lot.
Inherit.
I have learned running the medical centre and running our childcare centre is so different to residential aged care. So if you're asking the question based on different businesses, the businesses are completely different. So if you're talking only about residential aged care and you're talking about children, it's obviously, it must be something to do with protection. The protection.
Tim has said something that it's a supported home requirement, Stephen. On that point, Mark Sewell was in the childcare, the Office of Childcare or something previously. So he would be great to bring in on this topic, having that domain expertise. But I really think what you were talking about around the transformational impact that could take place with telehealth being mandated as a practical alternative. If you can't get the people locally and you want to employ Australians, then why not open up the gates to telehealth? Now, obviously, there needs to be some guardrails and some thinking and ins and outs, governance, policies, frameworks, etc. But I would love to see off today, Stephen, why not a change.org petition that we distribute across aged care? You heard it first on All Things Aged Care. We're a community of purpose. We want to stir things up. We want to talk about the real issues, and we want to see real change. Would you partner with us, and we'll put up that change.org petition of telehealth for aged care?
And I can give you somebody else too that will jump on that bandwagon. Sue Thompson from McLean Care, iAged Health. And to Stephen's point, when we're in a skill shortage industry, a skill shortage country. So these people that we need to fulfill these vital roles just aren't there. And as Stephen's noted, providers are using funds to build wings on for staff accommodation. They're putting childcare on premise so that they can provide extended hours. So if somebody needs to stay behind on a shift and you have a 4-year-old, they're able to do that without much family disruption. So the innovation's there, but it's that one little piece of policy. And if the policy can include some of that care time, just like enrolled nurses are added up into the RNs of 10%, but I think it would go a long way. So I would support it. I'm sure Sue Thompson would come on and she'd support it. But it will continue to play a vital role. And I think also as AI becomes more present, and I mean, if we think we have it difficult today trying to figure out if an image or a video is faked, imagine going to a shop and trying to work out if the human on the other side of the cash register is fake or not. I mean, that's only a couple of years away from us. So I see the telehealth as a nice kind of stepping stone in between, until we can really have an immigration policy balance. And that's another argument, that debate that's starting next week again in Parliament. So I think we really need to, until we're there and we have a lot of those policies, we need other options that are available today and that can have the appropriate control mechanisms around it that just ensure there's fluoride checks, you're having the right elements, but you're providing consultation, second, even feedback to maybe an RN that just wants that extra little knowledge base because maybe they aren't a specialist in wounds, but they know wounds, but they would love to have somebody else weigh in on it. Well, here's my phone, here's our engagement. That's got to be the future. I agree.
So, Stephen, we're all about not just ideas but action. We had Mark Sewell and Nikki Sloan, who are doing the regional health and aged care working group. They've brought together something like 50 stakeholders over 4 years around a rethink around how you do regional well. I think they would quite heartily look at this and be perhaps co-signatories or supporters. I won't volunteer them without them being able to respond, but what I will do is commit to raising it with them. The fact that they've spent 4 years on exactly how do we do regional better with limited resources, how do we rethink? It'd be great to see a working group, and why not a change.org petition? Yeah. The government and the policymakers have to now recognise that as a democratic platform where if there's enough consensus, they need to address it. What do you think? Are we right here, right now? Does that have merit for you?
It does.
I love it.
It does. Without a show, if you ask any chief executive or chief of HR that has facilities in regional or remote.
Oh yeah.
It is one of, if not the greatest problem to deal with operationally. It's staff because of the restrictions in place. And you can't be a cowboy. You've got to do this right. But if you can't physically get, you need 3 RNs or something and you've only got one, you've got to pipe them in from overseas if they're not willing to come in from the city. And the cost burden, unless someone's willing to front up and pay that, telehealth, and once again, I don't see bad reviews of telehealth in primary care. And George Margellis, he would have a great deal of knowledge on whether or not telehealth should or shouldn't be used in regional Australia. But you would find that there would be significant backing from providers and townspeople for something like this, without a doubt.
Let's go. We've got a great precedent already, and we build on that. There's foundations there, and it'd be great to bring John in this loop, being a structural reformer.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Appreciate having you on, and it's only fitting that you were my first podcast guest in 2025 on the Pioneers in Aged Care podcast, and you're the first all things aged care guest for 2026. So thank you. Always love having a yarn, as you put it, with you. And we'll catch up soon. As soon as I'm back in Perth, we'll catch up.
There we go. And great to catch up with everyone. It was enjoyable, like having a good chin wag.
Absolute pleasure, Stephen. Really respect the great work you're doing to level the playing field for regional communities to continue to deliver the level of care they deserve. Your model is game-changing, keeping the constitution, preserving the legacy. I'm really excited about the future of aged care with innovative models like yours at Apollo Care. And as we always say,
you need ChatGPT to wrap things up when you got Owen's brain. He summarizes it so well. But yes, give us the motto to round.
All for one and one for all. Things aged care.
Things aged care, baby.